Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call our meeting to order for June 24th, 2024. Before proceeding to the agenda, I want to acknowledge that June is Indigenous History Month, and Ottawa is located on unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Host Nation. The people of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The Ottawa Police Service Board honors the peoples and land of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. Today, Ottawa is home to approximately 40,000 First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Ottawa's Indigenous community is diverse, representing many nations, languages, and customs. The Ottawa Police Service Board honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people and their valuable past and present contributions to the land. Of note, we are currently broadcasting on Zoom and live streaming on YouTube. Should you have any disruptions, I would ask everyone to remain patient as we work to fix the issue and resume the meeting as soon as possible. Prior to this public meeting, we held our in-camera meeting. I can report on the following items considered in camera. Item number 1, update on demonstrations and event management. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2K information that Section 8 of the Municipal Freedoms of Information and Protection of Privacy Act would authorize a refusal to disclose if it were contained in a record. The board received a debrief on the management of previous events that took place. No decision or resolution was taken with respect to this item. Item number 2, Canada Day briefing. The board considered this item again in pursuant to 44.2K. The board received a briefing from the service regarding its operational plan for ensuring public safety on Canada Day. No decision or resolution was taken with respect to this item. Item 3, equipment maintenance contract. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to the same provision, 44.2K. The board received from the service a request to delegate authority to the Chief of Police to authorize an equipment maintenance contract. The board made a decision to approve the delegation of this authority. Item number 4, labor relations matter. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2D, labor relations or employee negotiations. The board directed members to work with the command team with respect to performance objectives. Item number 5, request for temporary assistance for National Canada Day celebration. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2K. Again, previously mentioned information that Section 8 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act would authorize a refusal to disclose if it were contained in a record. The board approved 7 requests for temporary assistance in keeping with Section 19 of the new Community Safety and Policing Act. Item number 6, personal matter. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2B. It's about an identifiable individual. 44.2D, labor relations, and 44.2F, advice that would be inadmissible in court by reason of any privilege under the law of evidence. Item number 7, labor relations matter. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2D, labor relations, E, litigation, and F, advice that would be inadmissible because of privilege. The board received and discussed a memo from the chief regarding benefits. Item number 8, labor relations matter. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, D, labor relations, and J, a position plan or procedure, criteria, or instructions to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on behalf of the board. The board received and discussed next steps with respect to the executive director position. Item number 9, labor relations matter. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, D, labor relations, E, litigation, and F, privileged advice. The board discussed proposed changes to benefits. Item number 10, Labor relations matter. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2. D, labor relations, E, litigation, and F, privilege again. The board discussed a proposed change in benefits. The board decided to direct the chair to formulate a response. Item number 11, labor relations matters. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2. Again, labor relations, privileged advice under F, and J, a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instructions to be applied in any negotiations. The board discussed the planning for the upcoming collective bargaining cycle. Items number 12, 14, 15, and 16 are legal matters. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2, litigation or potential litigation affecting the board. The board discussed these legal matters in relation to litigation. No decision or resolution was taken with respect to them. Item number 13 was a legal matter. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2, litigation and also privilege. The board discussed an update on the coroner's inquest into the death of Abdi Rahman Abdi. I will now proceed to the confirmation of the agenda. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board confirm the agenda of 24th June 2024 meeting. Is the agenda confirmed?
Confirmed.
Moving on to the minutes, confirmation of minutes. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board confirm minutes 101 of the May 27th, 2024 meeting. Are the minutes confirmed?
Confirmed.
Have with us for number 4, committee meetings. We have reports from committee chairs and minutes, policy and governance, draft minutes number 18 of 17 May 2024. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this item for information. Is these reports received?
Received.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest for number 5? Seeing none, we're going to move on to public delegations. We have 10 public delegates registered to speak today. When I call your name, you'll be able to turn on your mic and video. Each delegate will have up to 5 minutes to address the board. As a reminder, the board has set aside 1 hour as part of its regular meetings to hear delegations from members of the public. Advanced registration is required by noon on the Friday prior to the meeting date. A written copy of the comments that will be presented must be included at the time of registration. Delegations may speak to agenda items or other subject matters that are within the jurisdiction of the board. I will now proceed with the first registered public delegate, Mr. Robin Brown.
Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, Mr. Brown. Yes, we can.
Good afternoon. Thank you. On June the 4th, the Ottawa Citizen published Bruce Deichman's opinion piece titled, "Lower Town's Crisis of Violence is the Entire City's Problem." Deichman got some things right and some things wrong in his piece. First off, the violence isn't the crisis. The violence is a symptom of the public health crisis, a symptom of the housing crisis, and a symptom of the crisis in leadership that keeps giving all the money to the Ottawa police instead of using it to address root causes. Deichman says it's not just up to the police. City officials and all councillors need to get serious about the problems facing Lower Town and the Byward Market. And he's right on that. He said, listening to Lower Town residents at last month's OPSB meeting was heartbreaking. And I was at that meeting, and I agree. But the people at the meeting were those experiencing the symptom, not the ones living the crises. People who are homeless or people struggling with addiction or mental health issues rarely, if ever, speak at OPSB meetings, especially since you passed draconian rules creating barriers to people doing so. Deichman said that last summer he walked through the Byward Market one Friday evening from about 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. to see things for himself. He said he saw some bad things, but he didn't say he spoke to any of the people I just mentioned. He did say, quote, "Crime, homelessness, and issues related to drug use plague the area," unquote. talking about the Department of National Defense announcing it would relocate about 1,000 workers from its Cumberland Street location in the market, he said, quote, out of concerns for worker safety, he also said, quote, these announcements must make residents feel like the cavalry is abandoning them just as the gates are being breached, unquote. Now, this kind of language, like the police calling themselves the thin blue line, frames people experiencing health crises as invading forces from whom people need police protection. Protection, I might add, from the same police whose union, the Ottawa Police Association, continues to fly the thin blue line flag at their Catherine Street headquarters, despite the thin blue line patch still being banned from OPS uniforms. What Dietrich gets right is that the issues in Lower Town and the Byward Market can't be solved solely by policing. He says city officials, not just elected 24 elected councillors and the mayor, need to take full ownership of the problem and develop solutions beyond cramped, unsafe shelters and other services that aren't adequately addressing the crisis. That's true. And he says there are a lot of smart solutions out there and suggests holding a high-level city summit on Lower Town security. But that would address the symptom, the violence. No summit is needed to find solutions to the crises causing the violence. They're outlined in documents like the July 2023 report From Punishment to Prevention, done by the Center for Resilience and Social Development and Vivic Research. Dietrich ends his article by saying, quote, if we took a fraction of the capital we've devoted to getting trains to work and spent it on fixing this people problem, we might not be in this predicament, unquote. Now, the truth is, if we took a fraction of the capital we've devoted to the Ottawa Police and spent it on fixing these issues, that would go a long way toward getting us permanently out of this predicament. What won't help is hotspot policing proposed in the OPS's core strategy. Hotspot policing has drawn valid criticism from professionals, academics, and activists since it almost always results in discriminatory practices and increased police brutality. Hotspot policing in the Byward Market will lead to the OPS violating even more people's human rights, as the OPS's latest 10-year report on race-based traffic stop data shows they continue to do. The core strategy invests in punishment while claiming to partner with community-based organizations. However, the OPS idea of partnering is the OPS shifting work like mental health crisis response to others without giving up the budget dollars that go with it. At last month's board meeting, OPS Sergeant Paul Stam gave a presentation on the OPS's core strategy in which he said the problems in the Byward Market were the result of, quote, a complete failure of the system, unquote. But the system is failing because the OPS keeps using its influence to funnel money to the police so they can continue doing what they do best, policing marginalized people and making lots of money doing it. It's time to continue reimagining community safety by shifting money away from the Ottawa Police to things that actually respect people's human rights and keep us all safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions or comments for Mr. Brown from board members? Yeah, I want to thank you, Mr. Brown, for delegating today.
Thank you.
The next delegate is Brianna Fayette. Okay, I understand Brianna is not going to be delegating today, so we'll move on to the third delegate, Bruce Baker. And I see Mr. Brown is still on. Can we have Mr. Baker's video on and ask Mr. Brown to move it out of the this part of the Zoom call? Hi, Mr. Baker. Mr. Baker, can you hear us? You're on mute. If you are trying to speak, Mr. Baker, you're on mute. We cannot see you, and you are on mute. Mr. Baker, can you hear us? Randa, should we be moving to the next speaker?
Okay,
So the next speaker is James Adair. We'll try and get Mr. Baker back, but we cannot hear him or see him. So the next speaker is James Adair, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, we can hear you. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Adair.
Hello, my name is James Adair, and I'm a student at the University of Ottawa and a resident of the City of Ottawa. Over the past 8 months, members of our city community, motivated by grief and shock at the ongoing violence and genocide in Gaza, have been demonstrating in Ottawa. In response, the police have spent more than $1.6 million in the last quarter of 2023 alone on policing these demonstrations. This is a dramatic and shocking number. $1.6 million spent on policing those protesting a genocide. It is likely that these costs will be even higher in 2024. We've seen an increase in policing on pro-Palestine protests and an escalation in the tactics and response by the Ottawa Police Service. On May 29th, the Fulcrum, a student newspaper at the University of Ottawa, reported that over 100 riot cops were deployed against a group of demonstrators on Wellington Street. The usage of riot cops for a temporary roadblock is incomprehensible, especially when compared to the treatment of the convoy, which occupied that same street for weeks. This was after a heavy day of heavy police presence at the Kaze conference, arrest and police tactics that forced demonstrators onto the road, rather than allowing them to picket as has been done in the past for former Kaze protests. This is unnecessary and a dangerous escalation from the police side, not to mention costly. I, as a resident of the City of Ottawa, am unconvinced that this is worthwhile use of my money and am concerned about the ballooning cost of policing from a fiscal and ethical perspective, when there are tangible steps our city and community partners could be doing to work with protesters and reduce costs. While the money and loss of life expands, and the violence expands as well, the protest will and must continue. I implore the Ottawa Police Services Board to call for an end to the over-policing of pro-Palestine voices, work collaboratively with the community, and understand the role we play as a city and the police play as an institution on the ongoing violence in Palestine. Thank you for letting me present today.
Thank you, Mr. Adair. Are there any questions from board members for Mr. Adair? I'd like to thank you, Mr. Adair, for delegating today. Very much appreciate it. Thank you. Our next delegate is Susan Kaze.
Hello?
Hi, Susan. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so my name is Susan Kaze, and I have lived in Sandy Hill for the past 14 years. I chose to live in this community because of its walkability and its beauty. It's now neither, nor is it safe. Families have moved out, businesses have closed. People choose to drive when in the past they would have walked, myself included. The streets are disgusting, they're littered, they're overtaken by people in various phases of substance use. Sometimes they pose a danger to themselves and those around them, and we are fearful. It's clearer now than ever that we need police. I'm here to call for a return to policing. I'm here to beg the Ottawa Police to immediately take steps to restore public safety, enforce the laws, and increase their presence in my immediate neighborhood. I want more police, more patrols, less tolerance of criminality, violence, and disorder. In other words, I want police to return to police business, and I'm not alone in this view. I will note that most people who hold anti-police views are not living in my neighborhood. They're not the daily victims or witnesses of crimes, and that's why they hold such luxury beliefs. I live close to Center 454, and this is a terribly mismanaged site that endangers the community. It invites high acuity individuals into our residential community, and then it takes no responsibility for their actions, not during their working hours, nor in the hours before and after their operations, when the clients are obstructing streets, blowing crack smoke in our faces, and threatening us in our own homes. No, they all get to return to their quiet suburban homes. Meanwhile, their clients deface their building with graffiti. They vandalize private and public property. They deprive us from the lawful enjoyment of our home. On June 10th, my morning started with a 6 a.m. 911 call as clients of 454 set a fire in my neighbor's laneway while waiting for it to open. The next day, on June 11th at 9:48 a.m., I witnessed an unlawful break and enter across the street from my home. I didn't call the police, and I've seen 2 more break-ins since then. I don't have the time to call several times a day. Police just need to be here, and I'm just one person. On the 14th of June, I saw a swastika on the church's building next to the entrance. You can't imagine how a symbol like that makes me feel. It's not only a disgusting symbol of intolerance and white supremacy, but it's inherently violent. This graffiti is a hate crime, and it was I who reported it to the police, to the church, to the city. Hate speech and threats are common here. My call to the police about one such woman who's threatening me with hate speech didn't even get a response, nor did the police take action to find the man who threatened to kill me when I was sitting on my front steps. So it's just not hate crimes, it's sex crimes too. I've seen sex acts, assaults, trafficking. On June 3rd, a man exposed his penis to my 2 children who were playing in front of my home. He remained there trespassing on my neighbor's property, watching my children. We called the police. Apart from being deprived from the lawful, peaceful enjoyment of our homes, their clients block sidewalks alongside both King Edward and Daly Avenue. Citizens are prevented from accessing the right-of-way. They congregate to sell drugs, to consume drugs, to engage in violence and aggression. Some residents who've dared to walk by have been assaulted. And my children see this every day. It's their normal. They know that they can't go into the grass, and they know the reason why. They're only 3 and 5. This is all happening on a residential street that has become, because of the Ottawa Police's impotence or reluctance, a de facto open-air drug consumption site. Open-air illicit drug use must not be tolerated. And I'd like a meeting with the police chief to discuss my immediate plans to make the neighborhood safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaze. Member Curry, I see has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much for coming to talk to us about this. And you certainly have come to the right place to talk about most of the things. And I know everyone's listening to you. The question I have for you are some of the things that are also bylaw. And I wonder, have you also tried to call bylaw or talk to your city councillor about getting bylaw there as fast as they can?
So I've probably used every lever available to me to try to make improvements in my community. I had engaged both the previous and the current councillor for Ward 12. I was formerly the president of my community association. I liaised with the other community associations in Ward 12. I sat at the leadership table with the city of Ottawa in the past. Bylaw is not willing to act. Half of the time, their bylaw officers will tell me that they don't feel safe being here. They don't like to come here. And oftentimes they won't act unless they're accompanied by the police. For example, if there is a sofa that has been placed on the sidewalk, blocking the pedestrian right of way, that's a bylaw issue, I understand. But then when people are using it to shoot up and whatnot, like criminal acts, it becomes a policing matter as well. And so the police can't necessarily be there because they're short-staffed to assist bylaw in removing these things. So most of what I see is primarily criminality.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. When we're heading for budget, we will remember your delegation.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for this delegate? Don, I want to thank you, Ms. Kaze, for delegating today and bringing up your concerns to the board. It's very important that the board hears these as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next delegate is Erica Angert. Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Ms. Engler.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Erica Angert, and I am a resident of the City of Ottawa. I am speaking as a delegate today to the OPSB to express my disgust at the actions of the Ottawa Police Service regarding CanSec, which is North America's biggest arms conference, which was held on May 29th here in the City of Ottawa. As a young person, a student, a community member, and a person capable of compassion, the mistreatment of anti-genocide activists is infuriating and will not be tolerated. Young people are the future. It is true all over the world, but especially here in Ottawa, where students are vital, not only to the city's economy, but also to its culture. Failing to listen to young activists only resists change. It doesn't eliminate it. My peers at the University of Ottawa and across the city have shown their dedication through peaceful protest to ending complicity in genocide in Palestine and elsewhere. And the responsibility of the police is to keep these demonstrators and these demonstrations non-violent without limiting Canadians' right to protest. While community members have been able to protest CanSec in previous years, this year's horrendously disproportionate police response comes at a time where the right to protest is as important as ever. The only instance of violence reported at the CanSec protest was at the hands of a conference goer, further proving that the police response, over 100 officers in riot gear according to the Fulcrum, which is the U-Ottawa student newspaper, was extremely inappropriate and not truly meant to protect. It is particularly troubling knowing that the Ottawa Police Service received around $1.6 million in funding last year, when by no stretch of the imagination have the police been using these funds to do their job effectively. Arresting community members for exercising these rights only shows the bias and corruption within the police service. May 29th is a stain upon the OPS in arresting protesters and in protecting a violent conference participant. The Ottawa Police Service has made their true colors clear to the people of Ottawa, protecting the status quo instead of the people. The police are supposed to serve and protect, but I ask, who are you serving and who are you protecting? Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you, Ms. Engler. From board members, any questions or comments for this delegate? Seeing none, I just want to thank you for your delegation, Ms. Engler. Thank you. Our next delegate is Roberto Lehman.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Lehman. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to address to the Ottawa Police Board. My name is Roberto Tibaldi de Lima. I'm Brazilian-born and Canadian citizen. I've been living in Canada for 10 years. I live in the condo directly across from Belong Ottawa Center 454, located at the corner of King Edward and Delhi Avenues. Over the past 3 years, I've started to fear for my personal safety and security and that of my neighbors, especially young women and people with children. I no longer feel safe in the area where I live. Different sorts of crimes happen very often around my home. Neighbors have started to archive all of this in a group chat intended for now, at least for our situational awareness. Our sidewalks are constantly obstructed and our residences are trespassed upon by what seems to be mentally ill people and people openly selling and using illegal drugs. They seem to be all clients of 454. Sometimes there are signs of the sale of illegal drugs on the church's outside wall facing the sidewalk. And it is quite common that drug dealers carry guns. I'm worried that an innocent person may be killed due to this frightening and dangerous situation. We need to see more policing now. This is residential area. I'm not here to question the work of 454. No, I'm here to stress my safety concerns and that we could find immediate solutions. If the police would start enforcing the law, perhaps the situation could be improved and reversed. Right now, there is disorder and crime in this neighborhood. The main cause of my safety concern is open-air illicit substances use. It is tolerated by the city and the police, even though this is an offense under the Criminal Code of Canada. Many of us have stopped calling the police because our calls aren't responded to our address. We need more police. We need more policing in this specific area. We need police presence to deter crimes and to keep drug dealers away. We need enforcement to keep everyone safe from this current situation and constant fear. Right now, the only people safe seem to be the drug dealers freely selling illicit substance. It's common that I see them from my balcony. I'm going to provide below a non-exhaustive list of some recent crimes, none of which will surprise the police who work in this area. There just aren't enough off-patrol cops. So here are some of the crimes we deal with at the corner on a regular basis. Trespassing and breaking-ins. Our building front door and parking have been broken into for drug consumption and for theft and vandalism. Some residents have already moved out. Sex crimes, nudity in public places, and harassment. I've already been offered sex under payment or in exchange for drugs, especially by a specific lady that is always around. Meanwhile, many of the clients at 454 show their penises to people walking by. Sometimes I walk to work wearing a suit and tie, and individuals follow me, circle me around, asking for money, shouting at me, or threatening me. Swastika drawing. I saw the drawing of a swastika on the church's wall by the entrance of the Belong, Ottawa, a couple of weeks ago. This should mean a high alert on hate crime, especially to the Jewish and Black community. Violence threats. I've been threatened by individuals holding big knives and holding a kitchen-like torch and had to run from them. I fear for our lives. Finally, vandalism. Anyone walking this area can witness huge amount of garbage on the streets and sidewalks, defecation on sidewalks and blocked sidewalks. This is why I want to meet with the police, with the Ottawa Police Chief. I would like to discuss immediate plans to have more police and more enforcement on our street before one of us is killed. Thank you very much. In my letter, I attached the 10 pictures for your appreciation.
Thank you, Mr. Lima. Any questions or comments for Mr. Lima? Okay, I want to thank you for delegating today.
Thank you very much.
Our next delegate is Anya Fraser.
Can you hear and see me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Anya Fraser, and I'm a resident of Sandy Hill in Ward 12. For too long, the public debate about how to deal with the drug problem has been dominated by the harm reduction proponents, none of whom live here, but who've managed to perpetuate a grossly disingenuous narrative. That it's the people with lived experiences who are the most vulnerable, implying that everyone else is way less vulnerable, so they don't matter. The former director of the Oasis supervised consumption site said the quiet part out loud when he crashed a Lower Town community meeting and told them that, quote, anyone with a roof over their head doesn't have a right to complain. The reality is that people who live near these services are extremely vulnerable. One, residents are vulnerable precisely because this is where we live. If we say or do anything that angers a person with lived experience, they know where we live and can retaliate against us at any time. This has happened to my next door neighbor. 2, residents aren't a homogenous group, particularly not in this neighborhood. Some are newcomers, some are low income, some are LGBTQ, some are elderly, etc. Has the OPS ever done a GBA plus analysis on how your inadequate policing affects housed residents in Ward 12? And 3, maybe I'm just biased because I'm a mom, but I would argue that the most vulnerable in our society are our children. Can the OPSB please assure me that it's perfectly okay for children to regularly witness overdoses and sex trafficking while they're playing outside at recess? How would you like it if it was your teenage kid who had to walk past people smoking fentanyl on their way home from school? The upshot of this implication that residents are not as vulnerable as people with lived experiences is that whenever there's an incident involving a person with a lived experience and a resident, the vulnerable person's safety and well-being always trumps the residents. So how does this work in Ward 12? Well, whenever we call 911 to report that a person with lived experience is doing something that is clearly illegal and threatening to us, the OPS response is underwhelming. Example, one night someone forced open our gate, trespassed in our backyard, and started casing out our home. Our security system alerted us. We got out of bed. My husband stepped outside to tell the person to clear off while I called 911. I'm on the phone with dispatch, and the person starts screaming verbal abuse and threatening my husband. I relay all this to dispatch, and they tell me that the police are really busy. When an team in the area is free, they'll see if they can send someone over, if he's still there then. So you can imagine my shock when I got a flyer from OPS last fall that outlined the measures you'd put in place to deal with the upcoming Panda Games. It said that public consumption of alcohol or drugs is illegal, and that public intoxication is illegal. Also, trespassing, vandalism, creating public disturbances, all illegal. Who knew? This flyer assured me that residents have a right to the peaceful enjoyment of their homes, that these disturbing behaviors are unacceptable. And if residents see anything like this happening, here's a direct number that you can call and report it, and you'll be right there. Also, there'll be extra police out in force to act as a deterrent, just in case. So clearly, the OPSB knows that when people are intoxicated or acting belligerently, just the risk that that situation might blow up into violence is enough to make residents and bystanders feel unsafe. And you also know that police have a role in addressing this. So when it's students who are the problem, then the OPS will take that seriously and there will be consequences. But when it's a person with lived experience, well, policing isn't the solution. Remember, they're the vulnerable ones. This double standard is gross. The residents of Sandy Hill are fed up with the constant drug-related threats to our safety and the OPS treating us like second-class citizens. I call on the OPSB to follow the Peterborough Police Department's approach. They no longer tolerate open public use of drugs because they did a community safety survey that showed this made residents feel unsafe. This isn't intended to criminalize people who use drugs, but to restore balance and a reasonable degree of public safety to our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fraser, for bringing your concerns to our attention. Any questions or comments? Thank you again, Ms. Fraser, for delegating today. Our next delegate is Jennifer ONeal.
Excuse me, Chair. Could somebody let Kathy in? She's in the attendees section and is waiting to come back into the Zoom.
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Ms. ONeal.
Hi. Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer ONeal, and thank you for this opportunity to address the Ottawa Police Service Board. So my partner and I have been residents of Sandy Hill community for over 10 years. We love our neighborhood. In 2017, we became proud owners of a beautiful heritage house where we plan on raising then our 2-year-old child. 7 years ago, we felt safe, but now we do not. Today is a dramatically different place. We are scared, we are frustrated, as you can hear. We have made several attempts to engage directly with city officials about the conditions here. Our street is filthy, full of litter, and our sidewalks are often obstructed by people loitering, sleeping, and soliciting drugs from Waller to the corner of King Edward. That corner has become an open drug gallery. The people who are using illicit substances are often displaying aggressive behavior. It scares us, it scares our child, so we are forced to avoid it. Since 2020, we, including our young child, have experienced vandalism, break-ins. Just last summer, someone attempted to break into our home in the middle of the night while we were sleeping, while my child was sleeping in his bedroom. Our homes should be safe. It should be our sanctuaries. They're not. We have to deal with open drug use on our property, discarded needles and crack pipes in our gardens, and people who use drugs engage in sexual acts and pass out in our carport and on our porch. We have heard it all, from screaming racial slurs, displays of aggressive behaviors in the middle of the night, people fist fighting on our property, screams of people who are clearly in distress. We feel unsupported by the city and are left to deal with this every night on our own. So just imagine walking to your favorite local coffee shop on Saturday morning with your 8-year-old son. That feeling of joy quickly turning into fear and potential trauma when yet again we are the first one on scene of a potentially dead body underground. Witnessing my 8-year-old son calmly saying, "Mommy, probably another person who used too much drugs. We should call the police before getting a croissant." Does that sound like a street that has the support it needs? Center 454 has noble objectives, but unfortunately for everyone, it has created a dangerous environment. It is dangerous for its clients. They have rat infestations, including in their building from where they serve food. It is covered with litter and excrement, all things that lead to public health concerns. The center is also dangerous for nearby residents because it's constant and increased public use of drugs on and off site, leading to poorly discarded needles, pipes, and aggressive behavior. Where's the police? Why do we rarely see them respond to these issues? Why does the responsibility fall on us to call multiple times a day? We know there are far more incidents that you already have reported because so many of these crimes go unreported. So we'd like to see more police, more enforcement, and more social support. We need public order and security restored. No one should be deprived of the lawful and peaceful enjoyment of their homes. We should not live in fear or with worry. So Ottawa Police needs to know that residents here expect our public spaces and private homes to be safe. Officers should not tolerate open-air illicit drugs, especially not on residential streets such as mine, where my kid plays and walks to school every day. I ask, how might we be able to balance the needs and expectations of all residents in our community? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. ONeal. Any questions or comments for the delegate from board members? I want to thank you again, Ms. ONeal, for raising this concerns of the neighborhood. Thank you for delegating today. We have Amila Boich as the next delegate, please. Hi, Amila, are you ready to go? Go ahead, you can unmute and begin your delegation, sure. We can see you. Hello, can you hear us? Hi, Amila, can you hear us? We cannot hear you. If you can unmute, try and unmute. No.
Hello?
Yes, now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Perfect.
Thank
I
you.
really apologize. I'm so sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Amila Boich, and I own condo at 456 King Edward Avenue. I want to express my deep concern regarding the safety and security situation in our neighborhood, particularly around the St. Albany Church at the intersection of Dali and King Edward in Ottawa. When I chose to buy a condo in 2017, Sandy Hill, Daly Street stood out as a beautiful and vibrant part of Ottawa. The charm of Old Church, the breathtaking sunset view from my balcony, and the proximity to the University of Ottawa were major factors in my decision. Over the past few months, these disturbances, my lovely neighbors mentioned, have intensified, negatively impacting the quality of life and safety of residents in our community. I have lost count of number of times I had to call police. These incidents range from disruptive noise, alterations, to more serious concerns such as drug-related activities. These activities are not only illegal, but also pose a significant risk to the public and health safety. I have personally been a victim of physical assault where a homeless individual punched me in the stomach on Rideau Street. I immediately called the police to report the incident, but it left me shocked and fearful. As a result, I now feel terrified walking on Daly Street, especially when I need to go to the Byport Market or to the Rideau Mall and see homeless people laying on the grass or exhibiting abnormal behavior or openly using the drugs. Even using King Edward going north has become challenging due to its condition, which is often dirty and blocked by drug users. Last Easter, my close friend refused to visit me because she was afraid to leave her car on the Daly Street. The previous summer, she witnessed a drug overdose on Daly Street, which had profound impact on her. It is distressing to find homeless individuals using our stairs, garage, and lobby for drug use. I have documented these incidents with photographs and videos. Living in the capital city of Canada, experience these conditions is embarrassing. Having traveled extensively and visited many capitals around the world, I cannot help but feel ashamed of what we are enduring here. One police officer even candidly suggested that I could consider moving from the neighborhood. In light of these distressing circumstances, please, if you can, have increased patrols on Daly, King Edward, and Cumberland Street to address these criminal activities. And please, if you can, adopt a zero tolerance to drug use in public spaces. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Boich. Any comments or questions for the delegate from board members? Again, thank you for delegating today. We appreciate you coming and talking about these issues. This concludes our public delegations. There is a constant theme around involving the Sandy Hill community. I'm going to ask the executive command if they do want to speak to the issues that have been raised by a number of delegates.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Burnett, who I know has done a considerable amount of work in orienting us to have a better policing presence in that area.
Thank you, Steve. Chair, yes, I would agree. We've heard it loud and clear here on this meeting and from neighbors in that area that Sandy Hill continues to be an issue. And I think with our new model of district policing and what we're trying to achieve with that model, with the NOC and with the core, we're certainly moving in the right direction in terms of managing some of those issues that we see in those neighborhoods. Yes, I think we need to do a better job there. And again, conversations like this and the model that we're sort of beginning to institutionalize within OPS will help us address some of those problems.
Thank you. We should also recognize that we received six written submissions. So those are delegates that did not present to us, but presented in written form. 4 of these related to the policing of the CanSec event. 1 submission related to the board's role in community safety and well-being planning, and 1 submission related to processing of criminal harassment reports. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention as well. We'll continue on the board's agenda for inquiries. Number 7, inquiries. Are there any inquiries? Seeing none, we'll go to now the items of business. So we're going to hold the chair's verbal report. We're going to hold the chief's report. We'll hold the traffic stop race report. And that takes us to 8.4. This is the agreement renewal between the Ottawa Police Service Board and the City of Ottawa Transit Service Special Constables. Would anyone like to hold this item? Seeing none, I'm going to read in the recommendations. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board approve the revised agreement for the continuation of the City of Ottawa Transit Services Special Constable Program pursuant to the Community Safety and Policing Act for a 5-year term ending June 30th, 2029. Is the item carried?
Carried.
Good.
Thank you. 8.5, assistance in the provision of policing on Canada Day. This is to appoint special constables. Would anyone like to hold this item? Seeing none, it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board delegate authority to the chair and vice chair to approve, number 1, appointments of special constable status in relation to Canada Day 2024. Number 2, any requests for temporary assistance that are required by the Ottawa Police Service to secure resources from other police services to assist with the operational response to Canada Day, and sign any related memorandum of understanding pursuant to board policy CR-17 major events. Any exercise of this delegated authority will be reported out at the next regular meeting of the board to be ratified as part of the minutes. Is the item carried?
Carried.
Thank you. 8.6. This is to response to inquiry 124-01 OPS summary of the cost of demonstrations in 2024. Would anyone like to hold this item? Seeing none, it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is this item received?
Received.
8.7 Ottawa Police Service Annual Report 2023. Would anyone like to have this item held? If not, it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
And I just want to thank the Ottawa Police Service for all the work they did in preparing the annual report. So thank you for that. 8.8 report on Special Investigation Unit Investigation 23-OVD-111. Would anyone like this report held? It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Thank you. 8.9 Professional Standards Unit, the 2023 annual report. Would anyone like to hold this? Okay, therefore, it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Thank you. 8.10, the 2024-2027 Strategic Plan Semi-Annual Report. Would anyone like to hold this item? It is therefore recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
8.11 Outstanding Board Inquiries, Motions and Directions, May 2024. Would anyone like to hold this item? It is therefore recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. It's received. 8.12 Letters of Commendation, June 24. We'll hold this till the end. So we'll go back to the beginning now with the chair's verbal report. So I want to start by recognizing Krista Ferrero, the former executive director of the board. She has decided to transition out of her position and pursue an external opportunity. Krista served as executive director for more than 7 years, overseeing the day-to-day management of the board. Her commitment to our mission has left an indelible mark on the board and has set a high standard for future leadership. The board is grateful for her dedication and professionalism. We extend our sincere wishes for her continued success in her future endeavors and thank her for her service over the years. Next, I want to move on to the recognition of Indigenous History Month. Earlier in the meeting, I acknowledged that June was National Indigenous History Month. On June 20th, Member Henschel and I had the honor of attending the Wabano Center for Aboriginal Health Ignite the Spirit event, not only to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, but to recognize Wabano's invaluable contribution to our community. Their commitment to providing culturally relevant health services and promoting holistic well-being of Indigenous peoples has been inspiring. We should also recognize that June is International Pride Month. It is an opportunity for everyone to reflect on how we can create truly inclusive spaces within our community. This month also serves as a reminder of our commitment to demonstrate unwavering solidarity with the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. Central to the board's strategic direction for 2024-27 is the prioritization of equality, diversity, and inclusion. This involves building trust with communities and fostering a diverse and inclusive workforce by ensuring equitable access to opportunities and continually involving our organizational culture to support these values. Together, we can continue to advance equality, safety, and inclusion for all. I continue to take time to meet with various stakeholders to inform the work of the board. Over the past month, I had the privilege of attending with Vice Chair Carr a meeting with Trace the Lace, an advocacy group representing families of victims of lace drugs, and with Member Donaldson, a cadet graduation ceremony, and also attended a family picnic organized by the Ottawa Police Association. I would also like to acknowledge that Member Donaldson attended the Belleville Zone 2 meeting of the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards. Lastly, I will talk about the OAPSB, the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards conference that took place earlier this month. Members Carr, Donaldson, and I participated in the spring conference. Together with other police service boards, we reflected on the challenges and adapting to the Community Safety and Policing Act, which came into force on April 1st. The new act introduced significant changes to the landscape of police governance in the province. In addition to emphasizing the importance of independent civilian oversight of police services, the CSPA introduced new requirements, which involve major updates to board policies, as well as operational requirements, which involve significant investments in new equipment to meet legislative standards for adequate and effective policing. This concludes my verbal report. I want to go on to that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Is the item received? Received? Yeah, am I seeing nods? Okay. Chairs were test. Okay. I was wondering, are there questions? Happy to answer any questions. But
received.
Thank you. Chief's verbal report. Executive Command, I'll turn it over to you to decide on the Chief's verbal report.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair. And we'll join in thanking Krista for all the work she's done and wishing her all the best in her next adventure. She's been with us for a long time and done amazing contributions to policing in Ottawa. So good afternoon, everyone. The summertime is always a busy operational period for our service. I want to highlight some of the important work being done by our members in this report. A major focus for our service is Canada Day, as tens of thousands of people come to Ottawa to celebrate this great day. Right now, preparation is underway for our role in safety and security with events occurring in 5 locations across Ottawa. We've requested assistance from police from several policing services across the province and country, including the RCMP, the OPP, and Waterloo Police. I want to thank all of our partners for their efforts in coming together to make this a fun and safe day for all. The major event is being hosted by Canadian Heritage and held at LeBreton Flats. Of course, there are other Canada Day events throughout the city where we will also have a presence. On Canada Day, hundreds of officers will be deployed to ensure public safety in our community. We encourage people to plan their routes in advance, keep an eye on the weather, and plan accordingly with both. On Wednesday, June 12th, officers responded to a call for the suspicious death of a 57-year-old woman located in a home on Woodruff Avenue. The following day, the death was deemed a homicide. The victim was identified as Deborah Owen. Her 25-year-old son was arrested and has been charged with second-degree murder. We continue to see the seizure of firearms in several calls across the city. In mid-June, the Vanier Neighborhood Resource Team stopped a vehicle near Saint Laurent Boulevard in the afternoon. During the investigation, one of the occupants of the vehicle was found to be in possession of a controlled substance and a loaded firearm. One man was arrested and the investigation continues to be ongoing. Officers have seized 75 guns this year, and we continue to communicate with the public, asking them to report illegal guns so we can get rid of them from our community. Anyone with information around guns or any other criminal issue can contact Crime Stoppers and remain anonymous. Often the great work of our officers is forgotten in the court system, but recently Justice Lipson made some positive comments about some of our officers. Detectives Benson and McEwen, along with officers Lamoth and Russell, were praised for their roles in the arrest of a man in November 2022. The man was convicted of possessing a loaded handgun while wanted for attempted murder and having served time for previous drive-by shootings. The arrest occurred in an East End parking lot when Detective Benson and McEwen noticed suspicious activity and called for backup. When approached by the officers, the man attempted to hide a gun, leading to a tense moment where all 4 officers drew their weapons. Thankfully, the situation was resolved without tragedy and an arrest was made with no injuries. The handgun was found to have 13 rounds in the magazine and 1 in the chamber, including a number of hollow point bullet rounds. Justice Lipson commended the officers for their credible testimony and effective actions as the case progressed through the courts. This incident highlights the commendable instincts and composure of the officers involved, as well as the danger our frontline members face each and every day. We continue to see auto thefts across the city. Already this year, there's been more than 830 theft of vehicles. In the early morning hours of a Monday morning earlier this month, we received a 911 call for a vehicle that had just been stolen from a residence in the south end of Ottawa. Officers responded and safely stopped the stolen vehicle and arrested 1 man. Officers also located a secondary vehicle involved in the thefts nearby, where 2 additional men were arrested. In the secondary vehicle, police found specialized equipment used for the theft of vehicles. 3 men, aged 19, 20, and 21, all of Montreal, were charged with a variety of charges, including theft of a motor vehicle, possession of break-and-enter instruments, conspiracy to commit an indictable offense, breaching probation, and prowling at night on another person's property. They all appeared in court later that week. Tragically, since we've last met, there's been 2 drownings, and both were children. On Monday, June 3rd, a 9-year-old boy was found unresponsive in the water at Britannia Beach. Despite the efforts of people at the beach and first responders, the boy could not be revived. On Sunday evening, June 9th, an 11-year-old boy jumped into the Carp River, not realizing how deep it was, and was unable to swim. Sadly, he was declared deceased at the hospital. We continue to work with our emergency service partners, Ottawa Public Health, and the Drowning Coalition of Ottawa to raise awareness about the dangers of water for non-swimmers or weak swimmers. Not surprisingly, in both cases, passerbys or other people in the area immediately started life-saving efforts. Their selfless actions were heroic and gave these boys the best chances possible. If someone was part of the rescue efforts in either case and needs support, please reach out to your clinician or an organization like the Distress Center of Ottawa. On behalf of the Ottawa Police Service, our hearts go out to the families, friends, and classmates impacted by these tragedies. All year round, but especially in the summer months, there is always a large demand for blood donations. The Canadian Blood Services Sirens for Life blood drive kicked off on June 20th in memory of Samantha Eastop, the daughter of retired member Clint Eastop. The official campaign runs from July 1st to September 1st, with police, fire, and paramedic services having a friendly competition to see who gets the most donations. So I encourage everyone to honor Samantha's memory or the memory of someone you love and book an appointment to donate blood this summer. The 2023 annual report was shared publicly last week, and I invite you to read it and share it with everyone else as well. Ottawa remains one of the largest geographical areas of coverage for any police service, nearly 6 times the size of the city of Toronto, and about twice that of comparable populations in Edmonton and Calgary. We're proud of the progress we've made and the dedication of our officers in ensuring the safety and well-being of our residents. We continue to make significant progress in addressing mental health calls, redirecting them from frontline intervention to specialized support channels. I want to close on an important note regarding traffic enforcement. Speeding, dangerous driving, and noisy vehicles are a major issue for residents. So this past Friday, our officers conducted a traffic enforcement effort in the South End and Barrhaven area. In total, 94 tickets were issued for speeding, improper mufflers, failure to provide insurance, and unnecessary noise. 2 drivers had warrants for their arrest and were arrested. We also charged multiple people with stunt driving, including a 29-year-old at nearly double the speed limit on Green Bank near Malvern Drive. We know that traffic safety is a priority, so we will continue with these enforcement efforts throughout the summer. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Bell. Any questions from board members? Thank you again, Deputy Chief Bell. So it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive the chief's report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Thanks. Moving on to 8.3, this is a presentation. The 10-year traffic stop race data collection report. And I believe we have the co-authors of the study who will be joining us.
Yeah, Chair, can I ask that Paula Janney, Dr. Les Jacobs, and Dr. Lauren Foster, as well as Lyra Bushman, are allowed into the call, because they're the ones who will be presenting on this for us.
Sure. We're missing Professor Jacobs.
There we go. I think we have everyone here now.
Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Deputy Chief Bell, to start, and to your officials.
So thank you very much. I'll keep my opening comments very short, other than to say thank you for the team for coming together. Thank you for Les and Lauren from York University for doing all the work that they have done now and over the past number of years. For Lyra, who's here today representing the Community Equity Council. We'll go through it in more detail, but what I can say is this is one of the most exhaustive studies around traffic stop race data that's been conducted in Canadian history. While the numbers aren't where we want them to be, what I can tell you is that we have a deep commitment on are actively working towards working with the community to look at how we improve those numbers moving ahead. So with that, I will turn it over to Paula to start the presentation.
Hi, everyone. I would just like to begin by checking if you can hear me before I dive deeper into the presentation. You're good? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Acting Chief Bell. I would like to provide a brief reminder of the background that brought us to today's traffic stop race data collection report. Today, race and identity-based data collection is a recognized human rights tool for identifying, monitoring, and addressing systemic issues. It is used in many industries, including most recently in policing in Ontario, when it was legislated for regulated interactions, also known as street checks and use of force. As part of a settlement agreement with the Ontario Human Rights Commission, OPS began collecting race-based data for traffic stops in June 2013, long before it became legislated in Ontario. The first report came out in the fall of 2016 and exceeded the original settlement of the Human Rights Commission. In 2018, the Community Equity Council, known as the CEC, was created. CEC was also created with several working committees for training, anti-racism, communications, Indigenous relations, and more. The second traffic stop race data report came out in 2019, along with the diversity audit report. We consulted the community to prioritize recommendations and next steps, which led to the creation of OPS's first strategic EDI action plan, 2020 to 2022. As you know, our second EDI strategy, known as OPS's Drive 2 strategy, continues to build on our collaborative actions and partnership work. One of the Drive 2 action items is the traffic stop race data report. Let's turn to that report now. Today's report, the board report for the 10-year traffic stop race data collection project report includes the following areas. 1, a research analysis report prepared by our research team who's joined us here today, Dr. Lauren Foster and Dr. Les Jacobs, a new geospatial mapping tool for greater analysis at the neighborhood level. Thirdly, an acknowledgement and commitment to continued action that builds on our strengths and partnerships, and a task force and 18-month action plan with the Community Equity Council that will review deployment, policy, and training. It will also identify evidence-based best practices and contribute to the existing Drive 2 strategy work. The research team will now take through some key findings of the report.
Paula, can we get the slide deck advanced?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yes, can you see it still, the slide deck, or?
We can, it's on the first page though.
No, what we're seeing is the presenter view, like it's got, you're not, it's the, like it's not in presentation mode.
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies. Just give me one moment.
You'll have to advance it. That's
Is the view changed for you now?
Yeah, it's so it hasn't changed, but as you're going through, you're advancing slides, so you can also do it that way.
Okay, my apologies. I think that's what I'm going to have to do. For some reason, it won't go into presenter mode.
That's okay.
And so if I could turn it over to Dr. Les Jacobs or Dr. Foster.
I think Dr. Foster is going to go first.
Yes, I'll go first. Thank you. And thank you, board members, for having us here today. This is the third traffic stop race data collection project report, and it provides a comprehensive 10-year analysis of 284,721 traffic stops from June 27th, 2013 to June 30th, 2023. The analysis examines 3 key areas to see if there are any disproportionately high incidences of traffic stops for drivers of different races compared to their representation in the population of Ottawa. And we analyzed this data in terms of the incidence of stops, which relates to different racial groups, the reasons for stops, and the outcomes for stops. So our main question is, are there high disproportionalities that are not usually represented or not equally represented with the population of the community, the census population? Now, our findings were that for 2023 traffic stops, drivers perceived to be Middle Eastern were stopped 2.9 times more than would be expected compared to their corresponding population data. And drivers perceived to be Black were stopped 2.6 times more than would be expected with their corresponding population. This, of course, is reduced from 10 years ago when we first started, marginally. The 10-year traffic stop report shows notable patterns and findings compared to the first two reports. And as I mentioned, there have been marginal decreases or marginal improvements in the numbers. I might also add that traffic stops generally have gone down in the last 10 years too, which I believe can be interpreted positively. It, in my estimation, represents the fact that there is a more professionalism and more deliberative policing going on in the community. And I can talk about that more later if you have time. The next consideration were the reasons for stops. Now, as researchers, we wanted to know why traffic stops were being conducted. And we wanted to know if there were differences between different racial groups. And we assessed the reasons for stops along the lines or in terms of community offenses, provincial offenses, and municipal offenses. Now, the reasons for stop data show that over 96% of traffic stops are provincial offenses, and that there is therefore a very small number remaining in traffic stops instances for criminal offenses and suspicious activity. This finding shows a much higher frequency of criminal offenses being provided as the reason for stopping drivers. And it perceives, and we found that drivers that were perceived to be Black and Middle Eastern compared to drivers who were perceived to be white for that period had a higher frequency of these offenses. And the third consideration is the outcomes of the traffic stops. And for this section of the report, we focused on the key question: do racialized minority drivers experience disproportionately high incidences of specific outcomes of traffic stops when compared to their white counterparts in Ottawa over the 10 years? And this was assessed on the basis of whether individuals were charged, whether they were warned, or whether there was no action. I might say one of the striking and I believe situations that needs to be drilled down into and assessed more is that Black drivers received, of the Black drivers who were stopped, 42% of them received a warning, and 19%, almost 20%, there was no action taken at all. In total, that's about 61% of the drivers that were not given any kind of a charge when they were stopped. Now, altogether, I just want to conclude by saying that I believe that we've produced some real robust data over the last 10 years, and this can be used for the advancement of the community in Ottawa and the community's well-being. And all of this data captures a view that allows the Ottawa Police Service to eliminate systemic racism in the delivery of its services in policing and promote social inclusion and social justice. Now, for the next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Les.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks to the board. It's always a good opportunity to present to the board, and we appreciate their ongoing support for this project. One quick sort of compliment to what Lauren did mention, that a positive feature in the data is that racial disproportionalities for Black and Middle Eastern women seem to have almost completely disappeared, and obviously that allows for, from the OPS's direction, as they're thinking about sort of evidence-based strategies to address racial disparities, there clearly are probably some things to reflect on how that came about, and moreover that some of the targeted focus on how to address racial disparities for Black and Middle Eastern men, again, largely between 16 and 54. The final just general piece I would say is that can we move on to the last slide? We have developed a relationship with the Community Equity Council, and that has been, in our view, a very important development for the project, because at the end of the day, we've always emphasized that the purpose of this project is sort of twofold. One is to really have a made in Ottawa approach, and secondly, that from a human rights perspective, undertaking this kind of work is always forward-looking. It's not backward-looking. It's how do we make things better in the future, and the engagement and communication with the CC and collaboration is, we think, a really important development, and I think that the action plan that I assume we're going to hear from a bit more detail is really exactly the sort of step that we think is a valuable next step. So thank you.
I'll just request if we could turn it over to Lyra. I'm not sure if she has joined.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Lyra. There you are.
Hi, Paula.
Hi. I'll just get the presentation back up for you there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you, board, for allowing me to represent, or allow me to present on behalf of the Community Equity Council here with you today. So as was mentioned by the researchers, the goal for us is to work closely with the Ottawa Police and researchers to create a made in Ottawa solution, a solution that is relevant and specific to the needs of our community. So we acknowledge that there's a need for continued action, and we will be creating a joint task force focused on reducing disproportionalities in the traffic stops. How we intend to do that, or some of the ways we intend to do that, are by reviewing the deployment policies, procedures, and training, especially regarding systemic issues and practices, overseeing additional analysis of traffic stop data with geospatial mapping techniques that are being developed. We're looking at evidence-based research and best practice. Anecdotal is very important. However, if we have actually concrete data, that helps to guide and support the changes that we're seeking to make. And of course, we're continuing to contribute advice and feedback to the existing initiatives, such as the Drive to strategy, with regards to use of force reports, use of force community review panel findings, racial profiling, and the development of race and identity-based data collection strategies. And I think I will turn it over to Paul Burnett now.
Thanks, Lyra. So as the researchers have pointed out, we are positioned more than ever to build on our strengths and continue on human rights work to address the findings of the 10-year traffic stop report together. We will continue to work with the leadership, guidance, and support of the Community Equity Council to launch the 18-month task force and action plan to address disproportionalities. The task force will review deployments, policies, procedures, training, and work is already underway with the OPS Drive to strategy. I do want to take a moment to thank Dr. Lauren Foster and Dr. Les Jacobs, as well as the Community Equity Council and the EDI Committee for their important contributions on this ongoing human rights work. I want to publicly thank officers for their continued professionalism in carrying out the race and identity-based data collection and acknowledge their contributions to this ongoing step. That concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much, all the presenters. And I see that Vice Chair Carr has her hand up. I'm wondering if we can maybe stop sharing the screen and then we'll have all the people on the screen then. Thank you. I see, so I have Vice Chair Carr and I have Member Donaldson.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I must say it was almost a bit of a shocking report to read results. My only concern, I appreciate that all the time was taken to prepare all the next steps. I'm just concerned about how realistic all the commitments are in terms of the going forward plan to complete all those steps. Like, do you feel that we have the resources to do them? I mean, it's extremely important work, but it's an ambitious plan, and I just wanted to get your sense of what that work would really entail.
Deputy Chief Burnett, are your officials, which
yeah, I would say that we really have a great working relationship with the CEC in terms of the partnerships that we have. In terms of this 18-month study, I have to say that we know it's a heavy lift. We know there's a lot of work to be done here in this field, and we're committed to moving this forward. We know we need to put resources at this, and again, I think OPS is committed to seeing this forward and really making a change. And like the doctors have indicated, we have made some incremental changes, but I like to account this to sort of the Titanic. It is a very heavy lift and very difficult to make that really quick maneuver, but we are certainly committed to that and making incremental changes as we go. Anything you want to add, Paula?
Yeah, I'll just re-emphasize the commitment, the demonstrated commitment of OPS, and as the director of OPS, of the director of EDI within OPS, there's a very strong team here that is leading this initiative forward and very much wanting to continue the ongoing work that is needed in order to address some of the systemic changes.
I see Deputy Chief Bell also has his hand up. Did you want to get involved in this conversation?
Yeah, I'll briefly add to it because I think it's a really important issue that Member Carr raises. What I would say is, in terms of the training for our members, the base exists. We'll continue to build on that and move forward. I think where the opportunity exists and what we're doing now is around the work we're doing around our deployment model, the work we're doing with our district model, because fundamentally, I think we spent our last number of years really focusing on upskilling our members around these issues. And I think we've really identified that it's more, we need to do more than that. There needs to be the discussion around deployment, the work that John Steinbeck's and his team is doing around the mapping of these issues to identify where it's occurring, when it's occurring, I think is an advancement forward. So while it seems like it's a lot of extra work, I actually think it dovetails really well into the data work and the district work that we're doing right now. So I do think the list that's provided is very achievable.
Okay, good. And I just want to clarify, I think this work needs to take priority. Absolutely. Like there needs to be a sea change in combating these systemic biases. But yeah, thanks. Just was obviously I'm hearing that there's a dedication to get it done. So thank you very much.
Member Donaldson.
Thank you for everyone involved in this report. I mean, getting this kind of data involved, especially looking at a study that's 10 years in development, certainly gives us a good basis to move forward. Obviously, some concerning results as far as it's not quite where anybody at this table would like it to be, but very encouraging to hear that there's a very strong go forward. I've got a couple of questions related to the data itself. One of the things in the overview for the report mentions that one of the components was that officers were encouraged to record if they knew the race of the individual before they made the stop. But I didn't see that recorded anywhere in the data that was provided to us. Was that something that you just didn't get enough information, or was it something that was discounted?
Can we go to the researchers or the?
Yeah,
I guess I would go to. I guess I would go to the researchers. Either Dr. Jacobs.
Let me just give you a quick response. Yes, we did. I don't offhand have an exact number of people who responded, but it was quite high. So in other words, a high percentage of officers did report that they didn't know the race before the stop. But obviously, in terms of thinking about the stop as an encounter, the interaction with the officer, it doesn't simply happen at T1. It actually happens at T1 to T20, and we don't want to understate the importance of that entire encounter if you're really focusing on racial disparities in traffic stops. So that's sort of the principal reason that it's not front and center in the research.
Yeah, thank you. And just there is reference just after that quite often officers cannot see the race of the driver before they make the stop, and just in my limited exposure to being involved with officers in a ride along, I can certainly reinforce that. The other thing that I find interesting, so the data set is 284,000 traffic stops, but the full set that was in the report was almost 469,000. And am I correct in my assumption that one of the first things that was done is verify of that 468,000 and odd, that first thing, it had to be an Ottawa resident. So
yes,
there's 40% of the data was discounted because it wasn't residents of Ottawa. Is that correct?
Yes, no, and that's exactly right. To a large extent, because we were benchmarking against Ottawa resident population. We didn't ignore that the other data, and in fact, in all three reports, as background, we have looked at that other data to see whether there's notable patterns or differences. And for the most part, we didn't find notable differences in the proportions. But good benchmarking means that we wanted to have realistic accounts of who the representative population is that we were talking about in the data. You probably would notice that one subtle difference between our earlier data and our data during the pandemic is that we didn't use driver population, which is a subset of resident population, partly or largely because when we extracted from Statistics Canada the microdata about driver population, we actually found that it was heavily skewed because the driver population in the Statistics Canada census data is really about commute to work. And obviously during the pandemic, a lot of people weren't commuting to work. Again, the general point being that an important sort of in the background piece about talking about racial disparities and racial disproportionalities is that you do want to have a benchmark that makes sense and is a sort of relevant and reliable fit to the data set. And part of the sort of marquee innovation of the Ottawa Police Service is we really did do that from the outset and sort of set the standard for the province and arguably for the country.
Perfect, thank you. And again, my compliments to everyone involved in this, but there's some heavy lifting ahead and looking forward to updates as we progress. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from board members? I have just one possibly comment or interpreted as question. So the use of force data is also concerning. Will the task force be looking at use of force as well as traffic stops, or is the task force work solely concentrating on traffic stops? Is there a way to leverage the work that the task force will be doing with also looking at implications on the use of force data that was previously published?
Chair, I'm probably best positioned to answer that. So what I'll say is we have a different group that's coming together of community representatives to examine all of our use of force information. The disproportionality between use of force and traffic stops is very consistent. So we're going to look at use of force and all of the encounters, and then we're going to look at traffic stop data separately. But what we'll do is through the help of the CEC and Lauren and Les, we'll actually amalgamate that up into a single standard that we'll look at in terms of how we look to address that disproportionality across the board. So it will be separate, but it will amalgamate up into themes.
Yeah, as long as I guess the service is using lessons learned from the work of each, because they're very similar populations and that are impacted negatively and also issues. So if there's no further questions, on behalf of the board, I want to thank the researchers and everyone involved in this traffic stop study. It is a lot of work, as Member Donaldson iterated earlier. And so we really appreciate it. And as Vice Chair Carr said, it is concerning, and we're wanting to see improvements in this. We want to build trust with our various communities in the city. We want the service to do that. And so we'll continue on this journey and continue to support equity, diversity, inclusion, and that umbrella, and within the human rights framework, which is a strategic priority that the board established moving forward. So it is critical. It is a critical strategic objective. And so we're hoping to see progress as it moves forward. So with that, it is recommended that The Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Is the report received?
Received.
Thank you. And nearing the end of our agenda, if I have it right, we're going to go to 8.12 letters of commendation. I'll turn it over, I think usually the Deputy Chief Burnett.
Thank you. I have a couple of commendations that I'd like to read out today. The first one is dated May 18th from a member of the public, and it involves Constable Brown and Constable Saunders. Police were called to assist my friend who was in great mental health distress, agitated and very upset. Her family members called for ambulance. The paramedics required Ottawa Police due to the escalation of the situation. Police officers were very respectful of family members' request, if at all possible, to present slowly, quietly, as there were seniors with dementia also in the home, upstairs away from the situations. The officers worked collaboratively with paramedics to transport my friend to the Ottawa Hospital. Much respect and appreciation. And I wanted to share this one, which is dated May 19th, and a member of the public. As a person who supports a ceasefire and the ending of the occupation of Palestine, I have attended many of the weekly marches since October, and I want to say that I appreciate your presence every week. You block traffic so we can proceed through intersections in a timely way. As a participant, thank you and your team. The next one I'd like to share is dated May 26th, and again, from a member of the public. Hi there, I just wanted to note a recent positive interaction I had with the Ottawa police officer. I was pulled over for not coming to a complete stop at a stop sign. Rather than giving me a ticket, I was issued a warning. In my 35 years of driving, I have gotten a few tickets, but never a warning. It was a really positive experience and interaction, which is usually rare when coming in contact with the police, not to diminish or slight the work that officers do on a daily basis. I just wanted to say thanks and provide you with some positive feedback. And then the last one, again, dated the 28th of May from a member of the public. Our daughter has been having a severe mental health crisis for the last 6 weeks. She and we have had to call the police for assistance many times to deal with her. All of the police officers we have dealt with have been wonderful. They have handled her with care and empathy, and they have been very helpful to my husband and me in terms of offering support and suggestions. Kudos to all of them. They're filling an essential role in dealing with mentally ill people that Ottawa hospitals are incapable of helping. And those are the four that I really just wanted to share with the board.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Burnett. So for the record, it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive the letters of commendation for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Received.
Other business, or on agenda item 9. Do any board members have any other business? If not, this concludes our public meeting. Our next meeting will be held on July 22nd. Can I please have a motion for adjournment?
Moved.
Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your participation and all the work that went into doing this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.